Hello, everybody. Welcome to Classic Reddit, where real humans react to Reddit comments. Today's Ask Reddit question is, people that work from home regularly, what tips, tricks, and suggestions do you have for us working from home for the first time? I'm really excited about this because I've been working from home for 4 years, and I was used to this life before COVID, but once COVID started, it made the things that I had been used to and teaching people suddenly more relevant to everybody. So it put me in this very weird situation where, despite the fact that the world is suffering from the biggest pandemic any of our generation has ever seen, that event made my work more in demand because suddenly loads of people are working from home. So for me, this has been a very interesting learning experience, and I'm excited to see what other people have to say about it. So the first reply is by Clown Puree. I've been working from home for 20 years, since before my first kid was born. It has been great. My biggest habits: have a dedicated space and keep regular hours. Make sure your family knows they can't interrupt your work unless the house is on fire. Keep a journal so nobody can question your productivity. Use your saved commute hours to read the paper in the morning and or exercise. Eat lunch out of your fridge. Keep good coffee in the house. You can actually be more productive at home and live a better life that way if you stay disciplined. I agree for most of this, definitely. For me, when you're spending all of your time at home, I'm a person who's not super social. I'm happy to just have like a couple YouTube consultations for work. Like maybe once or twice a week, I talk to some random person from anywhere in the world for like an hour. And then I also meet with my regular work people. So I work with the team. We're developing this product, right? So I talk to them on a pretty regular basis. But I don't really go out too much. I don't really need to worry about that stuff too much to be happy. But I will say that when you have all the time in the world, it's often better, instead of looking at it day at a time, you kind of need to start looking at it like in like hour, 2 hour periods. Because when you work from home, and especially if you have flexibility, you can find that you have the option of resting when you need to rest and then just working when you're really able to work. So you have the potential when you work from home to be able to work much more effectively and much less than you could if you're working in another office. But being able to get that dedicated work is tricky, and that's why they're saying that you need to be dedicated. And having good coffee in the house is good. Eating out of the fridge does save you a lot of money. And basically, if you can cook 2 meals a day for yourself every day, you have the discipline and regularity to find success in work and your endeavors. That's just how it is. Let's see. Oh, another response to that. All excellent tips. Keeping a journal is the best way to account for your day. Plus, you have a written record of all of those annoying meetings. I came here to say keep a dedicated space. For me, I have 2 separate PCs in different rooms. One for work and one for gaming. Otherwise, the temptation to skip out on my responsibilities comes too easily. I totally agree with that. A lot of us don't have the luxury of having like multiple computers, but even for me, like, it makes a difference. If I'm just on my laptop on a desk all day, I don't feel that great. Whereas if I'm on my laptop on a desk and then I move it so I'm like in the kitchen for a bit, and then in the middle of the day I go out and I skate for just like skateboard for like 10 minutes or like 15 minutes. It doesn't take much at all. Just something to get the heart beating and to get some sun and to sweat, right? And then to come back and take a shower. Then I can go back to the same spaces. And as long as I'm moving around and I'm getting some physical activity, I could spend multiple days in that kind of loop. The problem comes from when I'm just in one place, just at my desk. It's actually possible for me to be fully entertained in home all day, provided I leave for like 30 minutes or maybe an hour. That's really all it takes for me to be happy and be able to be productive. It's more effective if I leave the house earlier in the day. That kind of sets me on a good pace because in the first part of the day, I'm always waking up. And I've learned that you shouldn't really think about the intense, hard problems in your life or work when you first wake up, just because, or at least for me personally, I'm more hopeless when I wake up. I'm just like, oh, everything, all I want to do, all I care about is sleeping. I couldn't think of how possibly anything could work. I want to just sleep, right? That's how I feel. So I've learned to avoid thinking about things that are important or working on things that are important in that time of the day and focus more on times where, like, that's the part of the day where I do the stuff I might procrastinate or I might put off, because then I feel good about myself and I'm able to work much more effectively because I feel happy with me. And I do my best work when I feel happy with me. But it's a catch-22 because I need to be doing work I care about and have done that recently to feel happy with me. So I gotta, get into the habit and stay in that habit. And those are the times when I'm at my happiest. And by happiest, I mean also most productive. This reply to what is some tips and tricks for those of us who are working from home for the first time? Pick a room, close the door, and use noise-canceling headphones. Everything is a distraction when working from home. Suddenly, checking the mail and doing the dishes seems like the best use of your time. Hey, I will argue that anytime you do the dishes as a person who works from home, it's actually more important than your work. Okay, the noise-canceling headphone thing is super true. It's easier to maintain an environment and focus on one thing when you're listening to music. I don't know why, it just is. And you don't need noise-canceling headphones. You could just have normal headphones that have loud music in them. Like, as we're recording this, you guys are hearing music that's blasting in my ears, so I can't hear distractions in my environment because I would get distracted by them. They still exist. I can't stop them, but I can make it so I'm not able to notice them, right? And that's the same thing you can do with headphones. It definitely helps. Like, if you feel that you're having a hard time focusing, there's a difference between listening to music in a room and having music focus like you're just listening to headphones. And there's also something to be said about listening to specific songs that don't have words when you're doing specific tasks. It really helps get your brain just in the zone to do what you're supposed to be doing. And like in my case, I need to make a lot of these videos, right? And I've been using the same music tracks. So when I start the recording, I hit play on the music track, start recording, and then the music tells me, okay, you remember the 40 other videos you made to this beat? Yeah, think about that. Go. And it helps me. It really, really helps me stay on topic. So that's a huge one. Definitely using headphones and listening to music. But I don't agree with the dishes comment because I personally believe that if you work and live from home, it is very, very important that you maintain a clean environment because it's going to ramp up and affect your work and your personal life much faster because you're at home all day and you're working. It's very easy to lose track of things and suddenly you haven't taken your trash out for a couple days or that kind of thing because you're always in an environment that you are in charge of maintaining. Maybe you live with someone else and they take care of you, and that's great. If that's true, you're lucky. But if you live by yourself or you're taking care of yourself, you have to deal with all that, right? So I personally highly, highly encourage you to prioritize dishes. You should put cleaning as more important than the work you're supposed to be doing on the computer. Because if you maintain a clean environment, you're going to work more effectively and you're going to be less distracted. If you're able to maintain a clean workspace, that will make you work more effectively. And it's very easy to work ineffectively for many hours and accomplish the same amount of stuff you could do working effectively for 30 or 40 minutes. So think about that because you can actually get more done by working less if you're really smart about how you work and when you work. If you're working at your worst point in the day, you're gonna work badly and you're gonna be distracted. Whereas if you know when you tend to be at your best, whether it's in the afternoon, in the morning, in the night, whatever, whenever you're most alert and able to use your resources, you're less distracted, that's when you should be doing the work that matters the most. That's when you should be using that time, right? And these are all things that you're going to get used to. If there's one thing especially to be disciplined about, it is time to stop working. It's very easy to convince yourself it's okay to keep reading a report because you might just finish it today, or to finish making all the entries tomorrow because that will be much easier when you'll finally be done with the project. Working at home starts to bleed over into your home non-work time life very quietly and very quickly. Pretty soon it becomes a habit. I've worked at home for the last 15 years, and I got so much more work done, but I had to fight hard to win this battle. That's a very good point. It comes from both sides. It's not just about working, it's also about understanding that now your workplace is where you work. And I will actually say that bothered me personally so much that I actually tried renting an office to go over to that office. And because I felt like I needed another environment to go to. And what I ultimately concluded by that experience was that I don't actually need another environment. I just need to be more diligent about how I maintain and clean my existing environment. Because I was often getting like cabin fever, right? And I was chalking that up to me being at home all day. But no, that's not actually true. There is ways for me to be happy and be home all day. It's just I need to be active. I need to do a wide variety of different tasks. I need to clean. I need to cook my own food. I need to enjoy food, not just rush while I'm watching TV or that kind of thing. And I need to move around a lot. I also need to enjoy some nature. And I happen to have a yard and a big mango tree, so that's really easy for me. I just need to go sit in the backyard and look at the tree and watch the birds and stuff, right? But I have to do all of these things in order to be happy. And what I learned is that when what I thought was me having cabin fever from being home all day, I was telling myself, oh, I can't help but feel that way. Of course I do. I was home all day. It wasn't actually because I was home all day. It was because I was sitting in the same place doing almost nothing else aside from being on the computer or playing a game or looking at a screen for like a day in a row, 2 days in a row. And that gives the feeling of cabin fever. You can actually be at home, spend some time gardening, spend some time cooking, spend some time with some animals like cats or dogs that you have, spend some time just relaxing, listening to the breeze and the ambient noises of your neighbors and other things. There's like 30 or 40 things you can easily do any day at home that really help to contribute to your overall ability to focus and meaningfulness. So it's important to understand that you have responsibilities as a person who works from home, and you can't just be like, oh, you can't just do what you want to do all the time, because that's actually going to make you miserable. You have to get used to the fact that, like, when you wake up, for example, you're going to want to just keep sleeping sometimes. And it can be very tempting when you work from home because you can just keep sleeping. And when you're sick, yeah, you should fully take advantage of the fact. Use that you can rest when you need to and do it. But when you're not sick, you need to be careful because you can sleep so much that you make yourself sleepy, you know? Like, that's something that happens. And most humans, without, like, somebody they're attracted to or adequate levels of food and caffeine, most humans are pretty tired pretty often. We aren't quite like cats, but you can compare us to cats. And you may think that, oh, you know, we're not that sleepy. But you got to understand, like, most people don't sleep more, not because they don't want to, but because they can't. They don't have enough time to sleep more. They have to work. They have to deal with their family. They have to deal with their obligations and responsibilities, right? The reality is when humans have the time, they do often sleep more than like 6 or 7 hours. And so you kind of need to learn to fight against that part of yourself where you have to know, okay, sometimes I wake up and I'm going to be tired and I won't want to keep sleeping, but it's actually better for me if I at least try and wake up. I like get up and go do something, go pet the cats, go get out of bed and do something else, see if I wake up. You know, you need to have a part of you that is fighting against what you currently want to do, because what you currently want to do as a person who works from home, like, you're going to have a lot more temptation for distraction than before, especially if you live alone, because you're accountable for yourself basically and getting your work done and not getting fired. But if you don't get in trouble when you are negligent and you don't really care about your job, it's very easy to find that you're not getting anything done when you work from home. These are issues. So it's really important to have a balance. And as I mentioned earlier, for me, the most important thing I can do is be clean. Because when I'm able to maintain a clean environment, I'm able to work effectively. It's not that cleaning makes me work effectively. It's the act of maintaining an environment forces my mentality to be in a certain way and have a certain momentum that then leads to me working well. And so the way I understand it now is that there's nothing aside from like a meeting right now that I have to do to talk to another person. There's nothing that should prioritize me doing the dishes. I should do the dishes before I do my work, and I'm going to have a better time working. Because what you learn when you're working from home is that you observe things around you as a human. You're going to need to go to the bathroom. You're going to need to drink water. You're going to need to caffeinate probably if you're working, right? These kind of things you're going to have to do. And on the way to these tasks, even if you're on a computer all the time, you're going to notice stuff about your environment, whether you like it or dislike it. And what you're going to find is that if you're neglecting yourself, like a lot of people do, especially when they live alone, you're going to notice something and it'll bother you a little bit. And what most people do is they just ignore it and then they go back to the computer. And eventually you kind of forget that it bothers you, but it still actually does bother you. So the goal is to get yourself to a point where whenever you make an observation, you're like, oh, hey, that thing isn't there. You want to convert that. You want that observation to be, oh, wow, that looks nice and clean, right? But in order to have that feeling, you have to be able to predict when things are going to bother you. So it's almost like you need the messy environment, and you need to spend a couple days where you're like working and you know where your paths to the bathroom are and paths to get water, and you know all the potential things that you'll notice that will bother you. Because you have to it's like digging up ruins when you're going from a messy person to being a clean person. The reality is everybody's happier when they're cleaner, right? But you can kind of forget that you're bothered by things that bother you. They used to bother you, but you've forgotten that even happens anymore, even though it is actually taking away your resources. So it's kind of like brushing the sand away and finding a ruin of a building you didn't even know was there, right? You've forgotten it's there because it's been buried. That's kind of how it works with cleaning. And the more you clean, suddenly you're going to find that, oh, wow, you actually do notice things and pay attention to them. So you need to learn your language. What are the things that you notice that bother you if they're dirty and make you feel good if they're clean? For me, it's like the floor and tables and surfaces. For example, if the kitchen counter's empty, it doesn't bother me if there's a couple dishes in the sink. But if there's a ton of dishes and random stuff on the kitchen counter, then everything in the kitchen bothers me. So what you find is that there's certain areas that you should prioritize because they have a high effect on your mental state. Because imagine that you're prioritizing your work and you work for like 5 or 6 hours. And at this point, you've gone to the bathroom 4 or 5 times and you've gone to the kitchen multiple times to get water. Every time you pass a mess, it reduces your energy. Your brain, whether you realize it or not, is thinking about that and is losing some of its attention to that mess every time you pass it. And this grows and grows. So that's why it's so important to take care of it. Because if you're not maintaining your environment when you work from home, you are letting yourself work ineffectively because you don't realize how your environment is fucking you up. So that's why you have to prioritize your environment, because not only is your environment where you live, it's also where you work. And that makes it even more important because you're probably used to, as working from in an office, other people take care of that office to some point. But now it's all you. You can't rely on the cue of other people being quiet and focused to feel like you can be quiet and focused. Especially if you're a habitual person who just will find yourself control tabbing and opening YouTube habitually without even thinking about it, right? Like, you really are going to have to pay a lot of attention to your environment. And like these people are saying, figure out ways to associate areas of your house to work. And also figure out ways to associate areas of your house to after work. What are things that you like doing when you finish work? Figure out how you can transition in your head. I'm done working now. I'm not working anymore. To, okay, I'm working now. I'm done relaxing or being at home. You need to be able to have a clear definition of when you are doing each of these things, because if you don't, it's going to bleed together and it's going to negatively impact your ability to focus and any romance you have or relationships with your children. So it's really, really important that you have this distinction and that you pay a lot of attention to your environment, okay? This person does the exact opposite. I turn on annoying cable news, put off work doing other things like dishes and bills and whatever randomly needs cleaning. Then, since that only takes like 15 minutes, I sit down and flip channels for a while, realize daytime TV is still shit and work is actually more interesting. Then I usually hammer at it for a few hours and take a break to kill more time, maybe go for a walk or go eat lunch, then come back around mid-afternoon, realize there's nothing to do, and slam out a few more hours. Once I've eliminated distractions by proving them to be far more boring than work, I actually focus longer on whatever I'm doing because it's normally the most interesting thing that is going on for me before 5 p.m. This person seems like they're being honest about what it's like to work from home. Another thing to keep in mind when you hear people talking about working from home is that people lie all the time. They'll be like, oh yeah, I worked for 12 hours. You should, anytime anybody shares a number in a social setting where anyone else is listening, especially if there's members of the opposite sex or the sex they're attracted to, you should expect people are increasing numbers that make them look good and decreasing numbers that make them look bad. Even the most honest person will do this to a point. They just do it less, instead of 5, they say 4. Whereas a really normal person, instead of 4, they'd say like 10 or 15, right? So you need to understand that all of this is happening, particularly when people are talking about working from home. So that's why this comment stands out, because he seems to be actually being honest. He talks about the fact that in the reality is he starts by doing the things that distract him and he procrastinates work. That is how most people are. So if you're like that, don't think, oh, everybody else, they're just better than me. They're just so much more able to focus. I tend to just not focus. That's the point. And getting able to focus isn't about forcing yourself to focus right now. It's about learning about yourself and understanding what you need to want to focus, and then building an environment where you have what you need to want to focus for at least an hour or two on the work that's important, right? All right, next reply by Cosmic Kismet. Do your usual morning routine and get dressed. Be sitting at your desk by your usual start time and stick to your usual break times. It's tempting to stay in your pajamas and work from bed, but you'll feel much better if you put yourself together each day. To add to this, and assuming you're not completely quarantined, go for a simple walk in the morning. Get out of the house as you would head to the office, but instead walk a few streets or just around your block. Oh, this is good advice, guys. I can verify that these comments are so real. I can't tell you the number of times that, well, first off, I live in the tropics, right? I live in Nicaragua. So it's very hot here. And you often do want to walk around naked or shirtless. Definitely. But that being said, sometimes if you've been wearing the same clothes or whatever, you haven't seen anybody, especially in quarantine times, it's easy to forget about putting yourself together if you don't need to make contact with other people. But I've found personally that I just will take a shower and change my clothes and then sit down or go to the backyard and look at the trees or something, and I'm like, I feel like I'm in a different headspace now. It really does something to you to change and to shower and bathe yourself in these things. So here in Nicaragua we take cold showers, and to the US that sounds crazy, right? But here you don't want a hot shower. It's hot, you want cool showers to cool down. And I can tell you that there's never a time in my life where I regretted taking a shower. It helps. It really, really helps just to take a 5-minute shower where you just cover yourself in cool, refreshing water It really helps to have little things like that to get you out of your head. Because sometimes you're going to find that there's a narrative you're telling yourself, like, oh, I can't feel good if I'm just stuck inside all day. I'm going to get cabin fever. And if you keep telling yourself that, no matter what you do, you're not going to feel good. But if you don't tell yourself that, and you focus on doing a lot of different things in your environment and cleaning and maintaining and getting some work done, but also enjoying yourself and reaching out, talking with your voice, not through texting, with your actual voice, like talking to people who you care about, you really can be happy and productive at home. Definitely this. Think of it like a regular work day and put in a full day with normal breaks. Appreciate that you don't have to commute. I've worked home for 4 years. I don't change out of my pajamas until I'm headed somewhere. Has zero effect on my mood or how I feel. Yep, it's different for everyone, right? For me personally, I do feel better. Like if I wear similar stuff for like 3 or 4 days and I don't change or look at my appearance or look in the mirror, and then I like brush my hair and take a shower and wear some clean clothes and like feel the wind on my skin, oh hell yeah, I love it. It's great. I strongly encourage it. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. If you want to make this kind of content where you react to stuff on your screen, record it, and narrate what you're reading, and react and talk about it, right? Then please reach out to us. The reason it's important that you react to the content is because you can't monetize a YouTube channel that just reads content that other people wrote. You have to really react and add your own voice to it and make it your own and have a style. Otherwise, YouTube doesn't allow you to monetize, okay? But it is possible to monetize a YouTube channel this way. And if you're interested in that, if you want to run a YouTube channel where you browse the internet and you react to content on the internet and you record videos that way, it gives you a lot of flexibility about the kind of content you make, because you can pick stuff that you're already interested in or informed about. Like this video, for example, I'm very informed in working from home because I teach people how to work from home, right? So I liked this video. I enjoyed making this video because it was relevant to my interests. And we want to connect with more individuals who want to run YouTube channels where they're using a tool like this to make the content. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to us. We want to have a Zoom conversation with you. Just go to our YouTube channel, click About, click View Email Address, do the CAPTCHA code, and say hello. We'll set up a Zoom call. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching or listening. Have a great day.